What's up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NBA podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Bret back on the show. Bret, good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be back.
And we've got a special guest, former NBA player Chucky Brown. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Chucky.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on. For those of you that don't know, Chucky is a former NC State, North Carolina State Wolfpack player under head coach Jimmy V, and is tied for the NBA record with 12 teams played in his 13-year NBA career. He is also a former NBA champion with the Houston Rockets in 1995.
Yep.
Let's start at the beginning. You played your high school ball at North Brunswick in North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
How good were you in high school? Did you have NBA as a goal back then?
I think like my sophomore year, I wasn't that good. I needed to play more. And what ended up happening is I went to a lot of basketball camps. That was back in the day when camps were the thing to go to. Didn't have all this AAU stuff. So I went to a Prep Stars basketball camp over the summer. Then I went to 5-Star. And I think that's what, and I went to NC State basketball camp, went to Wake Forest basketball camp. So I was going to a lot of basketball camps because I needed to play more.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up doing that. And from the my sophomore year, I might have averaged about 5 or 6 points. And then like over that summer, going to those camps helped me get better, playing against better people,
Nice.
playing a lot of pickup. And like my junior year, I might have averaged about 22 after that. And then my senior year, I think I averaged about 27, something like that. So but I never really had NBA as a goal. I was playing basketball because I liked to. I liked it, and I was having fun. I played football and broke my fingers, so I was like, I can't play this. I can't be getting broke up.
Yeah.
I played baseball and I got hit with the ball. I actually wasn't a bad baseball player. Got hit with the ball. It was like, man, look, I want to charge the mound, and you can't. You can't be hitting me with the ball. So I left that alone, and I grew, and then I just took a liking to basketball, and I didn't really have NBA as a goal probably until my junior year. I went to the Olympic trials, and when I was playing at the Olympic trials, and I was amongst the best of the best, and I was like, you know what, I might can make a living doing this. You know what I'm saying? So I think probably around my junior year in college was when I thought about the NBA, seriously.
Wow, that's cool. Go ahead, Bret.
So what was your recruitment experience like, and what led you ultimately to NC State?
That's a great question. My recruitment process, well, like I said, like my sophomore year, wasn't nobody really looking at me, but I had gone up to NC State basketball camp. My high school coach was friends with Valvano, so that's the first place he took me. And NC State was really the first school that was, showed any interest in me. They saw something in me that I didn't know was there. So they would invite me to games a lot. Like I remember coming to see Michigan State played NC State, Virginia, Ralph Sampson. They played NC State. So they were inviting me to all these good games. So they took an interest in me. And I think after my sophomore year, my junior year was when I got a lot of interest. And then my senior year, a lot of people would call in the house. And after I came back from 5-Star, a lot of people would call in the house. And I remember having conversations with Joey Meyer. He was at DePaul at the time. I forget who was at West Virginia, but I was talking to that coach. Talked to Lefty Drizel at Maryland. So the recruiting process was actually fun. It was one funny story. I went back to New York to visit my aunt. So I'm in the house and just chilling, and the phone rings, and I pick up the phone, and it's Lefty Drizel with Moses Malone on the phone. and I'm talking to Moses Malone. I'm like, Moses Malone, and he just called me out of the blue. I don't even know how they got the number to call me, but they found the number and they called me. And so I'm talking to Moses Malone on the phone, and he told me that if he would have went to college, that he was going to go to Maryland. So Maryland became like, along with NC State, one of the teams that I wanted to go and play for. But then like I said, the recruitment process, I thought it was fun. I ended up going to NC State, probably for a silly reason, because I had moved to North Carolina from New York, and Jim Valvano was from Queens. His whole coaching staff was from New York City. So, I mean, me just coming down I was a 15-year-old, and I kind of gravitated towards that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know, where you from?
South Bend, Indiana.
Okay, so if you go somewhere and you find out there's a bunch of South Bend, Indiana people around, you might go to that spot just to hang out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, so that's what happened with me. And Lorenzo Charles was from Brooklyn. And when I came on my recruiting trip, that's where they put me with Lorenzo and Spud. So Lorenzo I had him the first night, and Ernie Myers was from New York too. Tavian Benz was from the Bronx. So I just felt comfortable around it. So that's basically how I ended up at NC State. I liked the guys that were from New York City. And I knew nothing about the school at all, because my favorite player actually went to the rival school. James Worthy was my favorite player, and that's why I wore the number 52. So, nice. I knew about Carolina, but I knew nothing about NC State. But I went to NC State because of the New York connection.
That's cool. That's a good answer. I like that story. What was it like playing for Jimmy Valvano at NC State, and along with some great teammates as well?
It was great, man. I thought that, Coach V got a bad rap because there were guys that were doing certain things. And, he always told us, we always had meetings, and he always told us the importance of school and getting your degree and stuff like that. But sometimes, young people make their own decisions and sometimes have to find out the hard way. So we had some guys that had to find things out the hard way. But it was a great experience, playing for him. I mean, he was always, positive and energetic. And some of my teammates, like Nate McMillan was a teammate of mine, Chris Washburn, Vinny Del Negro, nice. Charles Shackelford. I had a lot of great, teammates that were fun to play with. But it was a great experience, man. And, back then, NC State was a top 15 program. So, you were treated, like a rock star on campus pretty much, saying you walk into class, people running up to you, wanting to take a picture with you. And, back then they had the little, you could buy them little Kodak there. I don't even know if you old enough to remember those.
Wind up?
the little Kodak. So like they would have those and take pictures with you and stuff. And, you sign autographs and stuff. So you kind of a rock star on campus and stuff. So, yeah, it was cool playing, for V, and my teammates were cool too.
Nice. Go ahead, Bret.
So you were the 43rd overall pick,
Mm-hmm.
selected in the second round of the 1989 draft.
Right.
How was it like playing for Cleveland and Hall of Fame head coach Lenny Wilkes?
Man, I tell you, man, that was probably, they say things happen for a reason. That was probably the best thing ever that I got drafted there. I was projected to go top 15 that year in the draft. And I'm gonna tell you why after I finish this story, why I dropped. I've never told this story. So y'all getting I'm your first NBA player, y'all getting the first story too that I haven't told
awesome. You. I love it.
But yeah, I got drafted to Cleveland, got drafted as a veteran team, Larry Nance, Mark Price, Brad Daugherty, Hot Rod Williams, Ron Harper, Tree Rollins, Paul McKeskey, trying to think who else, what else, Steve Kerr was there. Nice. So we had a veteran crew, and like it was probably the best thing for me because there was a such thing as a good veteran and a bad veteran. So I got drafted to a good veteran team where, my first year I was known as Rook. I was never called my name. It was Rook. Yo, Rook, come here. Rook, come here. Do this, do that. So, and I was lucky enough to have a guy like Larry Nance, who still to this day I talk to. But he was the one that said, hey, he said, look, Rook, this is what we're going to do. You're going to come here early. You're going to bring me some donuts. We're going to work out. We're going to get, and then we're going to go to practice. And then after practice, we're going to get some extra work in. So he kind of showed me what it was going to take to last in the league. You know what I'm saying? So, that was a great situation I got drafted into. Then, I was fortunate enough, where I had an injury. Not me, but the person playing in front of me got injured. So then I had the opportunity to play. And I remember, like in practice, I was always playing better than the guy in front of me. And, I was just wondering why I wasn't getting out there.
Yeah.
And I remember my father telling me, like, look, don't complain about it. Just when your time comes, you be ready. If you shouldn't complain about it, you won't be ready when your time comes. So I was like, all right, cool. So when my time came, I ended up starting, and then, it was hard for them to get me out of there because, I was ready. I was ready. So, and I think that because, every day I worked with Larry Nance, and he, pretty much, he didn't have to make me, because I love to play. So, I wanted to be good at it. So, he just had to all he had to do was just say, like he said, yo, Rook, you come meet me here. We're going to do this, that. And we did that. And, that helped me. That helped me a lot. So, it was fun. And, Lenny was a great coach. He was a guy that never got too high, never got too low. So he was always calm. So you were always calm.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a lot of fun being there. And Lenny, he taught you a lot of life lessons. Like, I was a real emotional guy. I wore my emotions on my sleeve because, Valvano was cool with that. But Lenny, when I was, I'd be getting emotional sometimes in practice. And Lenny would be like, listen, NBA is different. College, you play about 30 games. NBA, you're going to play 82, possibly 100 with 8-game preseason. And if you make the playoffs. So you will wear yourself out emotionally. So try to control your emotions. Okay. And, that helped me a lot doing that. So Lenny was also, great for me to play for. And Lenny was from Brooklyn. So that helped, and I knew about Lenny well because my mother knew about him. So she told me how great of a player he was. And I, ended up looking him up and, had a great amount of respect for him. So now I'll tell you the story about why I got drafted 43rd. Okay. So they have the Chicago pre-draft camp. Mm-hmm. And they do all these tests on you and stuff like that. So one of the doctors, the doctor from the Charlotte Hornets at the time, I guess he said that my back was bad and that I wouldn't last 3 years in the league.
Wow.
And so, I end up falling to 43rd. I never knew that. But how I find this out, I go to a game. This is when I'm retired. I'm done playing. So I go to a game and I'm walking in the back, got my little press pass on. I'm walking, feeling good. And so I see the doctor and I'm like, hey, what's up, doc? What's going on? So he's like, hey, man, you know what? You did a great job. He came out and said it. He was like, you did a great job. You had a great career, man. And I didn't think your back was going to last 3 years. I had to tell people that. And I was like, what? And this is like, man, like, listen, you cost me some money, man. But, I was like, oh, okay. And I really didn't know what to say after he said that to me. But yeah, that's why I dropped. So that's the first time I told that story, man.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a cool story to run into him all those years later.
All those years later, and he brought it up. He brought it up. How great my career was, and that he didn't think I would last 3 years, and he had to tell people. I was like, man, look, you cost me a lot of money, doc.
Yeah. Now, you would play one season with the Lakers in 1992.
Right.
What was your experience like in LA? And was that the same time? Was that the same season when Magic Johnson retired unexpectedly? That had to be crazy.
Yeah, that was the same season. And what happened? How I ended up in LA? I was in Cleveland, and this was like my third year in the league, and I didn't feel like I was playing like I should have been playing. So they weren't playing me, and I asked for my release. So I ended up asking for my release, and the agent I had at the time, he had talked to the Knicks, and he had talked to Jerry West with the Lakers. And so he called me and was like, well, those are the two teams that want to bring you in. She's like, so what do you want to do? So I was like, damn, I'm thinking, like, as a kid, I grew up, loving the Knicks, wanting to play in the Garden, but I had never been to California.
There you go.
So I was like, you know what? And I was a Magic fan. So I was like, I'll do the Laker thing. So then I ended up going to the Lakers, and that was a fun year. It was kind of wild because Magic always came around. He still came around a lot.
Yeah.
And, Magic, Kareem would come around a lot, but Magic still came around a lot. But it was just a wild, crazy season because, I'm there with Worthy, Byron Scott, AC Green, Vlade, all those guys had, played and had been with Magic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it seemed like, like they were a little, sad at first. It seemed like when I came in, like a little sad because that's shocking, what happened. So, but as the season went on, everybody, you get over things. You don't forget, but you got to move on.
Mhm.
But it was a fun year. Probably the wildest thing was, that was the same year the riots was out there then. And
Wow.
yeah, so I remember I never forget this season. That was when we played Portland in the playoffs. And the night, I know you probably have seen the video of Reginald Denny getting hit with the brick, but that night, we had a game that night, and we sitting in the locker room watching everything going on.
Jeez.
We're like, dang, I had never been in nothing like that. So, and it was wild because during the game, like the fourth quarter, probably we winning, we were beating Portland. And like during the game, fourth quarter, I remember the loudspeaker guy coming over the loudspeaker telling people which way to go home and which way not to go. And because this is, you can't go this way because this is blocked off. And it was just, that was the wildest thing. But it was a good year. Played with some good guys. Mike Dunleavy was the coach. But yeah, that was a wild year. That was probably one of the wildest years that I had in my career.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a cool story. Go ahead, Bret.
So the next season, you go on to play for another Hall of Fame head coach, Chuck Daly, and in Brooklyn or for the Nets.
New Jersey, yeah.
How was it like playing there? Sorry.
That's all right. Oh, it was great, man. Chuck was a fair, he was probably, not that any of the other coaches weren't fair. They were fair, but Chuck was more like the guy that like he'd tell you to your face. I think Chuck was he's a New York guy too. So he'd tell you to your face. If you was not doing good or if you was BSing, he'd tell you to your face. He wasn't going to be, telling the assistant, we got to get him out of there. Chuck will come to you like, we got to get you out of there. You stinking the joint up. So that's what I loved about Chuck. And he was fair. Like he didn't care. Like a lot of times you have coaches that in the NBA that if a guy's making $35 million, he's going to play. There could be a guy sitting there making $2 million that's better. But because he's not making the money, we've invested money in this guy, so we got to play him.
Yeah.
Chuck wasn't like that. He didn't care what you made. If you wasn't doing the job, you wasn't going to play. So, playing in Jersey was great. Then, being from New York, I was right back home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I was able to go over to the city whenever I wanted to. And I probably spent a lot of time in the city. And I would see like friends from elementary school at the games and stuff like that. So that was real cool to be back in New Jersey and be, right by New York. That was cool.
Nice. And then in 94 and 95, you had spent some time in the Continental Basketball Association, CBA, playing for Grand Rapids Hoops and the Yakima Sun Kings.
Yep.
And then winning a championship with the Sun Kings in 1995. What was that experience like in the Continental Basketball Association?
It was cool. And, like when I first went, my attitude wasn't right because I was just like, man, I shouldn't be here. This is some bull, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I didn't have the right attitude. And that's what, but I ended up changing my attitude as the season went on. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to show people I don't belong here and where I should be. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, having a pissy attitude, I decided to change that, So once I changed that, I started killing them dudes. And like, so I ended up going to, like Grand Rapids. I was in Grand Rapids and the guy that I played for, we didn't really get along. It was one time where I was sick and I told him I was sick and I told him that I didn't feel like playing, but if he needed me, I'd play. So he was like, well, I need you to play. I was like, all right, I'll play. I didn't play good. I played terrible. Yeah. And then we got in the film session the next day. The dude was acting like he didn't know I was sick. So then I was just like, wait a minute, dude. I told you I was sick. So we kind of got into it. And then he traded me up to Yakima, which was the best thing for me.
Yeah.
Once I went up to Yakima, Mo McCone was my coach in Yakima. And funny story, he was one day I'm just shooting around, and he kind of was looking at me, and I saw him look, you could feel somebody looking at you. So I felt him looking at me like, what? What is he staring at? You know what I'm saying? So finally he came over and was like, the last coach told me that you was crazy. So he was like, no, I find that not to be true. And I was like, man, look, I ain't crazy. I didn't tell him the whole story about what happened, what went down. But I was like, nah, man, I ain't crazy. I just want to do my time and I want to get out. You know what I'm saying? So then the following year, I came back to Yakima. I went to Miami's training camp, went back to Yakima. And then, it was just a big thrill for me when after each game, like a coach, the opposing coach would come up to me and be like, man, you shouldn't be in this league. So then I knew I was doing my job. And, I was happy with that. And I actually had an offer to go to France right before I got called up to the Rockets. I had an offer to go to France that I was thinking about, and then the Rockets came right in. So of course I was going to do that one. But the CBA experience for me was good because I wasn't a great offensive player. I was more of a slasher, defender, rebounder type of guy. And when I went to the CBA, I was able to work on my offense, low post game, and I got a lot better offensively from the CBA. So it was good for me to go to the CBA. That's
sweet. Go ahead, Bret.
So shortly after that, you get picked up, like you talked about, by the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
You guys would go on to win the championship against Shaq and Penny with Olajuwon and Drexler. What was that like, winning 2 championships that year in 2 different leagues?
Oh, yeah, that's another question, another trivia question you got there. So the only 2 people that would do that was myself and Tony Campbell. So we were, so you got that now. So but yeah, so that was great, man. Like I said, I was just balling, man, having a good time, and just wanted to show people I didn't belong in that league. And when the Rockets called me up, it was funny because we had a guy on the team. Everybody in the CBA was dying to get called up. So what he would do is he would prank call you like he was a GM, and you got called up, get you excited. Yeah, that ain't funny. You beat up for that. But this particular day, Bob Weinauer was the GM at Houston, so he called me. I was at my hotel room, and he called me and was like, "Hey, this is Bob Weinauer of the Rockets. I want to call you up." I was like, "Yeah, right, man. All right, stop playing, man. Stop playing Dale. Dale Depps is the guy that was doing it." So I was like, "Stop playing Dale. That's enough, all right? I ain't in the mood to play your games today." So he was like, nah, I'm serious. This is Bob Weinauer with the Houston Rockets. So I listened to it speak a little more. I was like, oh shit, this is real. Like, okay, how you doing, Mr. Weinauer? So they called me up, and I remember when I got there, I flew in the day of a game. We were playing Utah, and I remember going to sign my little 10-day contract and met with Rudy, and Rudy said, we're not going to play you a lot on this first 10 day, but the second 10 day, we're going to see what you got. Mm-hmm. So it just so happens that we end up blowing Utah out. So I get to play. Nice. So I played pretty good, got a feel for the calls and, feel for the guy. I knew some of the guys. I knew Vernon, I knew Kenny, Otis was there. I didn't really know Sam and Robert yet, but I knew some of the guys. So then after that first night, I got to play a little bit. The next night we go to Phoenix. We end up blowing them out. So I got to play again. Mm-hmm. So, and this is on my first 10 day. So then got a little bit more comfortable. So then the next night we play in Portland. That was the Vernon Maxwell night when he ran in the stands that night. So I got to play. Yeah, Portland blew us out by 40 that night. So I got to play again. So I got to game again. So I got a level of comfort, you know what I'm saying? So I wasn't had to be thrown out there and, you'd be a little tense. So when it came to my next 10 day, they signed to the next 10 days. So we played San Antonio, and this was Dennis Rodman was destroying everybody on the, rebound. He was killing. So, and they say, all right, we want you to guard Rodman tonight, and we don't want him to get no offensive rebound. So I don't say anything, but in my mind, I'm like, how you want me to keep this dude from not getting a rebound offensive? Yeah. But I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna try it. So I ended up, he got 1 offensive rebound that night, which was the best. And then after the game, he had a post-game interview, and he talked about how dirty I played him. So I felt like I did my job.
Yeah.
so yeah, so that was, that was great. Though the second 10 days. So after you sign 10 days, you have to sign for the year. So I hadn't heard anything, so I packed all my stuff up to come home. I was going back to Yakima, so I was fine with that. I showed that I could, be a good player in the league. So I was fine with going back to Yakima, finish out the year, and then I get a phone call, say, hey, you got to find a place to stay. We're gonna sign you for the rest of the year. So I was like, all right, cool. So I ended up signing for the rest of the year. Then we go on the championship run, which was probably, one of the most funnest things. And I can remember, another funny story is when we were down 3-1 to Phoenix. I remember I sent all my stuff home because I didn't know what was gonna happen. I sent all my stuff home, and Kenny kept telling me, like, Kenny was like, "Yo, we good. We gonna beat these chumps." And Kenny kept saying that. I said, well, let me send all my stuff home. So I ended up having to buy more clothes because we ended up going 2 more rounds to the finals. But Kenny has said, he told me, he said, man, we're gonna beat these chumps. They can't beat us. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that championship run was great. Just being around Dream and seeing how he worked, and Clyde, and just being around a championship mentality was just, that's just a breath of fresh air. You know what I'm saying? And then and Rudy T was, of course, one of my favorites because it was almost like, he used to call me Chuck Brown. Let's go, Chuck Brown. So and it was like I felt like his son almost. Like every time I scored, he was like gassed up. You know what I'm saying? So that was a great year. And I think the reason why we won it that year was because everybody knew their roles and played their roles. You know what I'm saying? So everybody fought for one another. We played for each other.
Yeah.
A quick question on that. So a lot of people like to talk about this because Jordan retired right in that era.
Right.
How do you think that 95 Rockets team would do up against a Bulls team if Jordan never retired?
Well, I think we'd still beat them, of course, because even Mike said that they had no answer for Dream.
Yeah.
So they had no answer. So I think Robert and Scottie Pippen canceled each other out.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think, Jordan and Clyde would cancel each other out because I think Clyde, Clyde had good games, and Clyde is a big, strong guy. So, Jordan, people will rank Jordan higher or better, but Clyde was right there.
Yeah.
Clyde was right there. So I think they canceled one another out. I think the difference or the big deal would be in the bench play. And I think that our bench was better. You know what I'm saying? So myself, Pete Chilcutt, Mario Ellie, you know what I'm saying? So we cancel out, Randy Brown. I think they had Randy Brown, BJ Armstrong, Bill Winnington, Cliff Levingston might have been there then. We'd have canceled them jokers out. So and I think that in those seasons that when Jordan was there in their championship runs, I believe the Rockets were beating them during the year. So in regular season, I know it probably doesn't mean as much to some, but that means something, psychologically to a player.
Yeah.
So I think the Rockets might have been like 6-1 against the Bulls. So a lot of people say that they won it because of Jordan retired. I totally disagree because there was nobody in the league that was any better than Akeem Olajuwon in those 2 years.
Case in point, what he did to Shaq in those finals. And
Shaq was young, and Dream would always come out the games and say, "Man, he's strong, but I'm more athletic. I got it."
That's awesome.
Said he was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I got him. He's strong, but I got him. I'm more athletic.
Go ahead, Bret.
All right. So the fall in '97, you ended up being traded to Phoenix.
Right.
That was several trades now in your career. What was it like? Was it difficult or challenging going from city to city so much?
Nah. It was just like a job transfer, man. It wasn't. I liked the city of Phoenix. Was cool. But got traded to Milwaukee. It was just like a job transfer. The only thing I didn't like was how it went down. I can tell you that too, how it went down. I came to the game and I had heard, like my agent had told me something was going on as far as a trade, because I refused they wanted to put me on the injured reserve list, right? At the time, we were 0-13.
Yeah.
So, and I was just like, yo, I was like, look, and I had a meeting with Jerry Colangelo, and he was like, well, we want you to go on injured reserve. And I was just like, well, I ain't hurt. You know what I'm saying? I said, look, if we was 13-0, I would do it. I said, but we 0-13, I deserve an opportunity to play. You know what I'm saying? And so he didn't like that. So we kind of got into it. And looking back on it, I probably would have handled it a little differently. But I was young, man, and I was like, look, man, these dudes ain't better than me. I want to play.
Yeah.
So I probably would have done the same thing, but maybe my language would have been different. I'll say that. You know what I'm saying? But I probably would have done the same thing. I would have they say you get more bees with honey. I'd have been a little sweeter to the guys. You know what I'm saying? So because I'm not that kind of guy. So after I decided that I didn't want to go on the injured list, I guess they must have told my agent they were going to trade me or whatever. So so my agent got word that I may be traded. So I was like, all right, cool. So I called the trainer, who was Joe Prosky at the time, before I head over. I used to go over to the gym early and get my work in, learning that from Larry Nance, get my work in early. So that followed me my whole career. So I called Prosky. I was like, yo, man, am I still here? And he said, yeah, I just put your jersey out, come on down. So at the time, I wasn't married. I had my girlfriend, who's my wife now. I had her drop me off at the gym. So we only had one car. So she dropped me off at the gym and she took off. So I'm in the locker room. Well, I got done working out. So I'm in the locker room, and, I used to joke around with the ball boys a lot. And, Phoenix is a big Republican state. So in the locker room, we talk about everything. So I think it was Bill Clinton might have been in office. So I was talking junk to the ball boys, like, yeah, y'all ain't never getting office back again. You Republicans, y'all are done. So we talking, we just having fun. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing personal, nothing like that. So it was fun because I knew they were Republicans. So we had fun together. You know what I'm saying? So so we laughing and joking. And I remember one of the coaches walking by, like my locker was sitting where you could look right in the locker room. He looked and kind of took a double take. And then the PR lady, Julie Fye, walked by, and she also took a double take, like, what is he here? Like, what is he doing? So I'm thinking, like, yo, why are you looking at me like that? So then Paul Silas came in and said, hey, man, come here. So I was like, what's up? He's like, man, I think you got traded. Let me go check. So I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, you got traded. And probably the only thing I don't like is that, nobody came and told me that I was traded. You know what I'm saying? It was just kind of like, like nobody, because I wouldn't do what they wanted me to do. It was just like, who cares about them? You know what I mean? And so I get traded. So then I have to get a cab back to my apartment where I was staying. So I got a cab back to my apartment. Then, we just packed things up and just went on to Milwaukee. But it was, Milwaukee was cool. I got to play with Ray Allen and Vin Baker and Glenn Robinson. Johnny Newman was there. And the only thing I hated about Milwaukee, and I'm just being honest, I didn't really like Chris Ford a whole lot. I didn't get along with him. He's just so negative. So I didn't really appreciate that. So I never said anything back to him, but I just didn't enjoy going to work, and I should have enjoyed going to work always. You know what I'm saying? But Milwaukee was a great town. I loved it there, but just didn't enjoy, dealing with him.
Everyone's had to deal with that one negative coworker all the time that, you don't want to be around it. Yeah.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Then in 98, you had played for the Atlanta Hawks, reuniting with Lenny Wilkens and playing on a great team with Mutombo, Steve Smith, Christian Laettner, Mookie Blaylock. That team had to be a lot of fun, and reuniting with Lenny.
Yeah, that was a great team, man. We had a good young team. We were unfortunate that the Bulls were there because we could have beat anybody but Chicago.
Yeah.
And we beat everybody but Chicago. And we matched up with them. Who beat us in the playoffs that year? Hornets beat us in the playoffs that year. But yeah, we were good enough to beat anybody. That was a good team. It was fun to reunite with Lenny, and just like being able to talk to him. And I never thought that I would reunite with him after what happened in Cleveland, asking for my release. But obviously, it's business, and he felt like I could help him, and it wasn't nothing personal. So that was good. So yeah, Lenny was a cool dude. I've run into him at the Vegas Summer League, and we sit back and laugh and stuff. about things that happened when we were in Atlanta and Cleveland.
Nice. And then let's go to. So you played in my favorite NBA era. I mean, you played against legends like Jordan. Played with Hakeem and against them, Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, Sean Kemp. What was it like to play against such elite talent on a nightly basis? And how do you think your era compares to nowadays?
Man, I tell you what, man. For me, it was just I was living the dream, as they say, because I grew up watching Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson, Isaiah Thomas. I actually, my mother got Isaiah Thomas's autograph for me in the airport. So James Worthy, Bernard King, playing against those guys, it was incredible. And playing with Clyde Drexler, against Clyde Drexler, Kiki Vandeweghe.
Yeah.
So it's some Mark Aguirre. What I'm saying? So it's some heavyweight names out there. It was great to play in that era, and I do think that was the best era in basketball. But I think that the difference in the eras, I think what we used to think was a bad shot. There's no bad shots anymore in basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like we're in an era now of position-less basketball. Like dudes don't really have a position. Like it kills me that people call Steph Curry a point guard. He's not a point guard. He's a combo guard. You know what I'm saying? Because he best serves you when he's scoring. You know what I'm saying? So Dame Lillard is another. Dame Lillard is a combo guard. He's not a point guard. You know what I'm saying? You're better if the ball is out of his hands. If you're on defense, you don't want the ball in their hands. So I think that the difference in the eras is, they take more 3-point shots than we did. And we played inside out. And now, they kind of like it's like last night, I watching the Utah game. The first shot for Utah was a 3-point shot.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas we used to try to get a layup.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I played, you try to get a layup or as close to the basket as you could so you could see the ball go in. And then, okay, once you've seen the ball go in, the basket looks bigger. Nowadays it's a little different. I mean, I think the dudes today are very athletic, but I think that we were smarter players. I think that, we didn't mind. We didn't take the first available shot. We make that extra pass. And the teams that win championships to this day are the teams that get the ball in the paint. And the teams that make the extra shot, make the extra pass. So, I mean, nothing about that has changed, but I think that the difference in the eras is now you got like a guy like Porzingis. I mean, Porzingis, he shoots a bunch of 3-point shots. He's 7'1". Back in the day, we had a guy like Brad Sellers. Brad Sellers was a good player, but he wanted to play on the perimeter. He was 7 foot. So he played on the perimeter, and he kind of got labeled as soft. Whereas Brad Sellers would have been probably better in today's game. Yeah. Because more 7-footers play on the perimeter. The lane is more wide open. And I think that the league wants the scoring up, especially after the Fratello era, where, there was 77 to 74 games. So, they want the scoring up. So now, and it's not as much physical contact. I think we were a little more physical. We had to get in the weight room a little more. And I don't think that they lift weights like that anymore. They're more into the cardio stuff, get running and getting up and down. Whereas, I know guys would come in, back in the day, they'd take the summer off and just like use training camp to get in shape. Can't do that anymore. You got to stay in shape year round. Yeah. So I think that, that's a big difference in the eras too.
Yeah. I mean, your era was my favorite era. And I also like, the Larry Brown, Ben Wallace Pistons. That type of basketball to me is always going to be great,
Yes, because they defended too. They played defense. Yeah. Now it's harder to play defense in this era too.
Yeah, the officiating and all that, touch foul. Yeah. Go ahead, Bret.
So what do you think about super teams like the Heat and the KD Warriors and now the Nets?
I mean, if that's what guys want to do, that's your preference. It's a different mentality now. Like I say, the AAU thing took over, so a lot of them guys probably played with each other in AAU too. So they want to play again in the pros together.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with the super team thing. I don't have a problem at all with it. If that's what guys want to do, hey, go ahead. You know, do your thing. It's their time. So I would never bash LeBron for going to play with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. But I will say LeBron ain't the GOAT. I'll say that much. You know what I'm saying? So, but I won't bash him for going to play with guys because it's, some guys, he cares about winning, and if he feel like he needs some help to win, why not?
Yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, LeBron isn't the GOAT. Who's your GOAT?
My GOAT is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar all day long, simply because Kareem had a shot that's not been duplicated. You knew it was coming, and you still couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
So the sky hook, no one has ever duplicated that shot. And Kareem, he's 5-6-time All-Star MVP, all that type stuff. He scored more points than anybody, I believe. But I think Kareem is the greatest player of all time, and he's a big guy who had to depend on getting the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And at 38, what he did in the finals at 38. That line he put up when the Lakers needed that win in Boston, he had like 35 or something like that. I can't remember, but he had a real big night at age 38. So yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is my GOAT.
Nice. Yeah, I got no beef with it. To me, MJ is my GOAT because I came up in that era, and I say if you got Bill Russell, Kareem, MJ, I have got no beef with it. Even like Kobe or Duncan, Now, where was I going? Who do you think wins the championship this year? Are you watching these playoffs?
Yeah, I'm watching the playoffs, man, and I gotta say, man, I gotta go with the sexy pick, and the sexy pick is Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? That's the sexy pick, so I gotta go with the sexy pick with Brooklyn. They got KD, and eventually they're going to get James Harden back. And it looks like they can handle the Bucks without James Harden. So I gotta go with Brooklyn to win it this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping for Nets Clippers, but I agree with you. The Nets look in today's offensive era, the Nets look nearly indefensible.
and I agree with you. I think that ratings wise, and I think the NBA might not say this, but I think they want Nets Clippers. I think the NBA wants that. I think they want that because I don't think people, even though Utah, as good as Utah is, Nets Utah just doesn't sound as interesting.
Yeah.
Nets Clippers sounds far more interesting to me. I think that's what the league wants, but we'll see if it happens.
Yeah, I can see it. I hope so. I hope we just get a competitive finals. Last year's was kind of boring to me a little bit. So
I agree. I totally agree.
But all right, well, we appreciate so much you taking the time to come on. It was a great interview, and you had a lot of great stuff to say. It was awesome.
All right, thank you, man. Thank you for having me, man. Anytime, man.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good one.
All right, man. Y'all take care.
Yeah, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, peace.
Bye.
All right, thanks, guys, for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you think, and have a great week, guys. Peace out.